Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Man, oh man, do I love October. Not only is it the month that my favorite cereal's available, but as a fan of horror movies and all things ghouls and ghosts and spooky, it's a great month to be alive. And before I can get into those celebrations and have some of this cereal, I have to share my September update to my NES Complete Collection Chronicles. Hey guys, welcome back to my September update to my NES Complete Collection Chronicles. I know the last couple months have been kind of slow going and I haven't really picked up that much, but this month, it's not one of those months. So I want to get into this as quick as I can and show you everything I got. First up is a game that actually, it's one I needed for my collection, but not something I'm really excited about. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Heroes of the Lance. Well, really, I don't have a whole heck of a lot to talk about when it comes to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Heroes of the Lance. I started playing the game, it looked somewhat interesting, but as soon as I started playing, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't go in the door or anything, so I just ended up killing off my characters. I'd love to tell you a lot about this game, but unfortunately, guys, I can't. But there is something very interesting. If you take a look at the back of the cartridge, you'll actually see that there's a large square piece of cardboard that is actually taped onto the cartridge, which is the instructions from the rental place. And it's the first time in a long time I've actually seen this. I remember this happened a lot back in the 80s with these NES cards. They would just tape these printed instructions on the back so they didn't lose the instruction manuals. Anyways, that's probably the coolest thing about this game. Next up is a game by Trifix. Castelian. I don't know how to say it. To be honest, I didn't have very high expectations for this game when I plugged it in. But I was pleasantly surprised. You play this really cute little character and he's trying to traverse his way up through the castle. It's kind of a maze castle climbing game. Very interesting and not bad for a couple bucks. Next up is a game show game, and I gotta tell you, it's one of my favorite game shows. Family Feud. Are you ready for the feud? Well, Family Feud. Anybody who's watched the show, you know what you're getting here now, but I will say the NES did a pretty decent job of turning the game show into a Nintendo game. Overall, this is not magical, it's not Legend of Zelda, but it's kind of fun, and if you like Family Feud, you'll like this game. It's basically question and answers. You guys know what Family Feud is, I don't have to tell you about that. Next up is a Tengen release that every single time I see it, I think I already have it. Turns out, I did not. Now I do. Gauntlet. I can't imagine at this point in time that nobody knows what Gauntlet is. Gauntlet is basically a dungeon crawler, maze dungeon crawler, and you know what? It's pretty fun. It's not really my cup of tea, but it's okay to play, and it's something that I was surprised when I plugged it in how much I enjoyed playing it for the short time I did while capturing footage. Next up is the game of World Domination, and surprisingly, it's not Risk. Genghis Khan. Well, Genghis Khan is I'd like to say military strategy, but it's not. It's a political strategy game based on the dynasty that Genghis Khan came from. I'm not a history buff. I'm not really up on Genghis Khan or anything that happened. And I'll also tell you, this game is not really my cup of tea. If you like military strategy type games, and this is more so political strategy, maybe this is a game for you, not one for me. Next up is a release by American Video Entertainment, Crazy Creatures. Well, there's not a whole lot to Crazy Creatures. It's basically just this interesting puzzle type game where basically all these animals come onto the screen and you have to line them up either in diagonals, straight lines, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, and you collect points. The whole goal of the game is to see how many animals you can match up. The funnest part, I think, is right at the beginning when all the animals fly onto the screen and then you have to grab them and stick them in their patterns as quick as possible. But otherwise, this is a puzzler. If you like puzzles, maybe Crazy Creatures is a game for you. Next up is a release by Taxon. That's right, the exact same Taxon that made G.I. Joe on the NES. Unfortunately, I don't know if this game's as good. Magician. I'll be honest, of the games I picked up this time around, Magician is probably the one I'm the most disappointed by. Honestly, I didn't know a whole lot about it going into it, but when I saw it was released by Taxon, I immediately thought of how good G.I. Joe was. But sometimes you have to realize that just because a company publishes a game doesn't mean that they necessarily developed it. I don't know who developed Magician, but this is definitely not G.I. Joe. I was hoping it was going to be a side-scrolling action platformer. It's not. I don't even know how to explain it because I couldn't get far enough to really get into the gameplay to understand, but so far, not for me. I'm going to have to play it more, maybe it'll become more interesting, but right now, I'm really disappointed, mainly because I just thought it was going to be an action platformer, and it sure wasn't. You guys all remember, there was a point in time in my NES collection life where I was only collecting the licensed games. Well, that all changed when I picked up most of the Wisdom Tree games all in one lot for like $7, all except Bible Buffet, of course. But anyways, I decided then I was going to reach out and I was going to get all the unlicensed games as well, because that more closely sits with the list on Nintendo Age, which is my canon for collecting. Anyways, out of all the unlicensed games, the unlicensed publisher that I'm the most disappointed by so far has been easily Camerica. That all changed with this game, MiG-29. What's so good about MiG-29? Well, it's Afterburner. Yep, it's an Afterburner clone, and a pretty good one on the NES. Excellent job. There's some really fun music, the gameplay is very similar to Afterburner, and you know what? Graphically, music, everything comes together pretty well. So if you see MiG-29 for a very cheap price and you like Afterburner, this is the game for you. Actually, when I tell people about this next game, they don't believe that there was ever a copy of this on the NES. They don't remember the roots. They remember the PlayStation 2 games and the great fun they had with that. They thought that was the start of the series. Even the NES wasn't the start of the series. I believe it was on computer before that. But shockingly so, on the NES, Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia is an adventure game. What's the closest comparison? If you've ever played a game kind of like Flashback or Out of This World, it's kind of like the NES equivalent of that. There's a really cool animation for your character, good range of motion, but you have to navigate your way through this castle. I'm not very far in it, so I can't really explain it any more to you than that, but that's pretty much the best definition I can give. Overall, it's a fun game. If you like those games like Out of This World or Flashback, you know what? Prince of Persia's a lot like that, the early one is. So maybe that's a game you'd be interested in. Next up is a very fun, unlicensed puzzler, Klax. Klax is a very unique puzzle type game. In most puzzle type games, the puzzle pieces just come out and you line them up. But in this one, there's actually a double dynamic. You have your bottom board where you put your puzzle pieces and you have to either stack them on top of each other, line them across, or make a diagonal. But what actually happens here is the pieces just don't automatically come to you. They come down this giant shuffleboard, and you have basically a top which you can catch each tile. That top can hold up to 5 tiles, and once you catch the tiles, then you have to place them on the board below to form your shapes. So far, I'm not very good at it, but you know what? This is very unique and very fun, and I'll definitely come back to it. Next up is the arcade classic, Pac-Man. Well, this is Pac-Man, and a pretty good version of it. It's actually a lot of fun. I have Pac-Man on my Atari 2600, which isn't such a great version. This one's, I guess, a little closer to the arcade, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's Pac-Man. I mean, the point of the game is to capture all the pellets. You have your power pellets, which allow you to kill the ghost. Why am I telling you this? Everybody knows what Pac-Man is. And what better way to follow up Pac-Man than some more Pac-Man? Well, here we go, Pac-Man again. To be honest, this is pretty much the exact same game as the Tengen release. There's actually two Tengen releases. There's the black cart and the gray cart, and there's also the Namco release. The only real difference that I could see from the short time I played both games was that the Namco version has a different title screen. Other than that, this is the exact same Pac-Man you're getting from Tengen Unlicensed cart or the Tengen Licensed cart. This is a game I'm surprised I never picked up a whole lot sooner. Being a huge fan of Pat the NES Punk and watching all his reviews, I picked up pretty much every single game that he's reviewed that was not super expensive. Anyways, this is one of his earlier reviews around the middle of his YouTube days. And I finally have it in my collection. Well, I didn't pick it up because I wasn't getting unlicensed games. That makes sense. Anyways, I got Skull and Crossbones. Skull and Crossbones is a really interesting, I'm going to use interesting here, interesting action platformer where basically this magician has robbed the princess and you're a pirate and you have to go from ship to ship and area to area to collect booty and weapons in order for you to take on a boss at the end of each stage and finally make your way to the wizard and take him down. Other than that, it's not an amazing game, but it's not fun. And last but not least, I keep always saying I think I now have the full Konami set, then I realize there's a game I don't have. Hopefully now I finally do have the full Konami set. I think I do. I picked up Zen Intergalactic Ninja. Zen Intergalactic Ninja is actually a heck of a game because how much cooler can it be? Not only is it talking about this epic space adventure, but you're also a ninja. That's awesome. The game has a lot of different gameplay mechanics. You can play this kind of top-down stage, which should be in the clip I'm showing you now, and there's also some side-scrolling, I think, a little bit later on. I can't remember now because I only played it a little bit last night, and I only played the one stage to capture this footage, but so far, Zen is a very fun game. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really looking forward to playing more of it. To be honest, it's another great Konami game on the NES. To be honest, when has Konami ever let us down? It's pretty much gold on the NES, and Zen Intergalactic Ninja is another example of that. Alright, for those of you who've been following along at home, last time I was at 602 games. This time I picked up 14 new games, which brings my total to 616 NES games. That's a lot better than the last couple months. This is more what I'm used to. I don't think it's always going to be like this, and that's actually an amazing load of games for someone who's actually so close to completing his collection within the last 150 games. So that's really cool. On top of that, I didn't really mention it, but I actually picked all these games up in one lot, which is even more surprising. Luckily, I have this really good friend who used to sell games and used to collect. He's no longer doing it anymore, and basically he decided to clear out what was left of his collection. He took a look through my list, saw what I needed, and I was lucky enough he gave them to me, and he gave me a really good price too, so thanks a lot, man. Anyways, guys, that's everything this time around. Thank you very much for watching. You know, it's amazing. So many people watch this and been following along, watching me try to complete my NES collection. That's really cool, guys. I'm glad that you're enjoying this and you've been watching, and hope you stick around and see me finish it. Anyways, I should probably get going. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time. Hey, buddy. Hey, oh, don't lick me. Your breath stinks. Oh, my God. Tell him everything. Tell him something, Optimus. Freedom is the right of every sentient being. Ho, ho, ho.